Hi, dear language learners. Today we're going to talk about a really useful hack that gets you fluent even at beginner's level, even at A1, A2 level, and that totally uses the fundamentals of social psychology to have you stop procrastinating because it will have you feel immediately a reward of the effort you put in. So bear with me, it's going to be really useful for all of those of you who actually study in self-study mode with a good study routine and who hate seeing themselves procrastinating. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex. I'm a social psychologist, and I bring you the basic, fundamental, but really valuable laws of social psychology to have you speak with unshakable confidence and to have you become fluent far quicker. Because I actually have you learn the mindset hacks that actually tell your brain that it's really easy and that it's really fun. And this is what we are going to focus on today. And as you know from my previous videos, I'm studying at the moment my fifth language, which is Italian. And I'm so much convinced about this principle of practicing what you preach. So I'm actually using the Everyday Nano method, which I invite you as always to download your copy on my website to use that method myself, because as I use it myself now for my fifth language, I'd like to refine it and add experience to it. And also through this YouTube channel, I'd like to converse with you about your experience of how this goes and how you become quicker, that fluent, confident speaker. Okay, today's hack is actually whenever you start a new language is kind of this, it's this vast field where you feel, oh, where do I start? Where do I just start? What do I focus on? And usually, what we then tend to do, I had that a lot with when I started French. I started to do language apps, which is useful, and I practiced I practiced words per day, which can be useful for your general vocabulary, but it doesn't bring you the reward in terms of fluency that quickly because you can't form sentences and usually you don't have the words that you need for a basic everyday situation like shopping or ordering something in a restaurant. So, what this hack does, it makes you focus on the four most frequent verbs, and with them you can already form, even at A2, A1 beginners level, an indefinite amount of sentences. The four verbs that I recommend you to start with is, in any language, is the word to do, but actually also to stay true to the everyday nano method, only in, first of all, very simple conjugations like I do, you do. Then also I can, you can. The essential one, the third one, is I like or I don't like, to say your preferences. And the verb to say. So I say, I would say, what would you say? These need to be the first structures that you focus on because with them you just add a pinch of some vocabulary and then you can form better sentences. And now, the other principle of the everyday nano method, remember, was not just the 5 minutes per day to never even fall into procrastination because it's so tiny, it's just a tiny amount of time. The other tip was to focus on a real life situation that you really will have, ideally the next day. So I want to practice this with my study buddy at the moment. I'm an autodidact, so I want to practice this with ChatGPT. And I want to illustrate that with my learning my fifth language. And the important thing is that without knowing exactly how these verbs are formed, that you start repetitions immediately. You need to get speaking. If your aim is really fluency quick, you need to get speaking. So I'm going to switch on ChatGPT. Hi there, ChatGPT. Are you there?
Hey there. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm doing well as well. Thank you. Could you help me again today with my Italian practice? And could we practice something that I like on my A2 beginners level in Italian, which is focusing on the following four verbs? It's the verbs are I do, you do, I can, you can, I like, I don't like, or what do you like? I say, and what would you say? To use mainly these four verbs in these forms I just told you, and to practice a simple situation, you are a shopkeeper for, let's say, clothes. We are clothes shopping. I want to shop for clothes in Italy. And you basically ask me questions about my preferences, and I try to answer in Italian. And please also speak very slowly.
Of course. Let's start. Buongiorno. Benvenuto al negozio di abbigliamento. Cosa cerca oggi? Good morning. Welcome to the clothing store. What are you looking for today?
Oh, that's so nice. You're even translating it. That's cool. Okay, so cercare is to look for. So I would say cerco. How do you say jumper in Italian?
Great job. Jumper in Italian is maglione. So you can say cerco un maglione. Now let me ask you, ti piace il maglione blu o il maglione rosso? Do you like the blue jumper or the red jumper?
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, to say I like is mi piace, I guess, right? Mi piace il maglione blu.
Perfetto. Mi piace il maglione blu is correct. Now, let's practice a bit more. Do you also want a jacket? In Italian, jacket is giacca. So I might say, vuole anche una giacca? Do you also want a jacket? How would you respond in Italian?
Thank you.
Ottimo.
Okay, so I would respond, vorrei anche una giacca. Sì.
Perfetto. That's correct. Vorrei anche una giacca? Sì. Means I would also like a jacket. Yes. Great job. Now let's try the next phrase. If I ask you, cosa dice di questo vestito? What would you say about this dress? How would you respond if you like it?
Mi piace molto questo, grazie.
Perfetto. Mi piace molto questo, grazie means I like this a lot. Thank you. You're doing great. If you want to say I can in Italian, you would say posso. So if I ask, può aiutarmi? Can you help me? You can respond with posso aiutare. I can help. Ready to
Ah,
try?
yes. Let's try.
Benissimo. If I ask, può aiutarmi? Can you help me? You can respond with posso aiutare. Great. Now let's continue
To
shopping.
aiutare. Okay, can we revise? Can we repeat the same question and answer that we just learned? Can we say that again, please?
Certo. If I ask, può aiutarmi? Can you help me? You can respond with posso aiutare. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. I actually want to now repeat all the different words that we saw just a minute ago. And can you please say them now without English translation? So you would start with the asking me for my preferences, what I'm looking for, what I like, and I would start, no, I will start the conversation. I will ask you if you can help me.
Va bene. Iniziamo. Dimmi pure se posso aiutarti.
Ok, può aiutarmi, per favore?
Certo, posso aiutarti.
ChatGPT, are you still there?
Cerco un maglione blu. Mi piace molto.
Ok, cerco un maglione blu, mi piace molto. Può aiutarmi a cercare un maglione blu, per favore?
Certo, posso aiutarti a trovare un maglione blu. Vuole anche una giacca?
Sì, vorrei anche una giacca, per favore.
Va bene, le prendo anche una giacca. Posso aiutarla con qualcos'altro?
Sì, cerco anche come si dice shoes in Italian?
In italiano, shoes si dice scarpe, quindi può chiedere, cerco anche un paio di scarpe.
Ah, cerco anche un paio di scarpe, grazie. Ok, sì, può aiutarmi a cercare un paio di scarpe, per favore.
Certo, posso aiutarla a trovare un paio di scarpe. Quale tipo di scarpe preferisce?
Ok, how do you say rain boots?
Rain boots in italiano si dice stivali da pioggia.
Ok, può aiutarmi a trovare... can you repeat that? Stivoli de piova, I think it was. Stivoli di piova.
Certo, posso aiutarla a trovare gli stivali da pioggia. Vuole provare questi?
Ah, grazie, sì, vorrei provare queste stivoli di... how do you say it again? Say again the word slowly for me to repeat it 3 times of rain boots.
Certo, la parola è stivali da pioggia. Ripetiamolo insieme. Stivali da pioggia. Stivali da
Stivali da
pioggia.
pioggia, stivali da pioggia. Ok, può aiutarmi a trovare stivali di pioggia?
Certo, posso aiutarla a trovare gli stivali da pioggia. Eccoli qui.
Grazie, mille grazie. Okay,
Pr-
so ChatGPT, can we pause here because I want to tell my viewers something, okay? Can we just quickly stop here?
certo, va benissimo. Quando sei pronto, possiamo continuare. A
Grazie.
presto.
A presto, grazie. Okay, and the great thing, as always, you get with this exercise on ChatGPT, you get all the full transcript. I don't know if this is visible. Let's see. Yes, this is visible. You get the full transcript of what you have just practiced. You get that, and so you can even read it afterwards and then revise. What I tend to do, because now obviously the 5 minutes have passed, I let it sink in, and a little bit later in the day, I do a second 5 minutes per day, and I try to repeat every sentence 7 times. I read it first and then I say it out loud without reading it 7 times because that way you do really repetitions. Like I mentioned that in my last video as well, like practicing an instrument or practicing a sport. So you really need to focus on 3 elements. These 4 basic words. They actually allow you, without knowing rain boots, for example, to have a conversation and then point at the object, for example, in the shop and ask the shopkeeper, what do you call this? Um, so, for example, also a key sentence is you need to always have the sentence ready. I told you that in my last video. What is this called in the language? So, how do you say? And there you have the word say again. And then, so if you have these 4 verbs, you can build really easy sentences with then, saying, how do you say for this? And then you can actually ask for it. If the object is not visible, you can start describing and maybe chip in some English words, but avoid it at all costs. I know you will say if there's an abstract concept, it's very difficult, but you can at least have the shell of the conversation in your target language, and the rest you learn new vocabulary as you go along. Because the aim is not to get into that self-sabotaging habit. Remember my last video, where you actually stop mid-sentence and say to yourself, especially, I can't say it, and then you switch back to your native language. The aim is to have the shell of the conversation already in the target language, and then little words are added in the learning progress by speaking with a native speaker. So, for example, now I learned on the go how rain boots is called. And that is fantastic because I will not learn rain boots without context before. I will rather learn, can you help me with, or how do you say, can you, all these simple structures that help you build a frame for a conversation. And the social psychology behind it is actually that you will feel the reward of already speaking quite early on, because you will feel, oh, I can already engage with a native speaker. I don't need to hold back. And that will give your brain the feedback that it's actually not that difficult. And that will give especially your brain the next time you practice this feedback of, oh, let's jump right in because it is easy and it was fun last time. And that is the, let's call it the secret, the social psychological secret of convincing yourself to stay motivated in the long run, because procrastination always sets in when methods of study become a drag and feel very heavy and burdensome. And this feeling of overwhelm usually then in intermediate level kicks in when you had many classic methods. When you study with classic methods, usually there's no immediate reward in everyday life situations for talking, and so you feel you need to study more to be able to speak. And that actually gives a negative feedback to your brain in terms of, oh, I have not studied enough of the vocabulary. And that's exactly where you don't want to go, because that just will create procrastination automatically. So I hope this helped. Please let me know in the comments what you think about that. And also let me know, share with me and with the others, of course, the verbs and the sentence structures you study first when starting a new language. Because as I always say, YouTube is fantastic to share experiences and to learn in a more joyful way, all together as a community. So thanks for spending this time with me today, and join me again in the next video.